Hey, here we are. Welcome. It is Sam Roberts, now the loneliest post show that the internet has ever known. Welcome to the official Not Sam post show of the big Jake Paul Mike Tyson fight. We saw the spectacle. Well, we tried to see the spectacle go down on Netflix tonight, and the headline simply reads that Father Time is undefeated. And I think that feeling that a lot of people have is this reality sinking in, that there are no superheroes, there are no immortals, that time is going to get absolutely all of us, no matter how much we want to believe. Before the fight, like earlier this afternoon, my wife goes, are you going to bet on the fight? Because she knows, put a little money down on football, are you going to bet on the fight? That could be a lot of fun. I said, no, I'm not betting on the fight. And she said, why not? And I said, because the person that I would have to bet on, you have to bet, if you're going to bet, you have to bet with a certain degree of fiscal responsibility. The person that I'm going to bet on is not the person that I want to win. And I don't want to put that energy out there. I want to live in this magical world where time gets all of us except for one guy, where one guy has this magic potion that he can turn this monster back on regardless of the age of the human form that he has taken on. And when that monster is turned back on, there is simply no mortal that can stop it, specifically a Paul brother. That's what I want to believe. But if you're asking me, do I believe it so much that I would put money behind it? Don't even ask me that question. I'm not even opening the MyBookie site. I'm not doing it because I want to exist in my fantasy land. I want to go back to when I was a kid and the legend of Mike Tyson. This is the person that I want to go back to. The reality is he's 58 years old. And they were going through the tale of the tape between Jake Paul and Mike Tyson. And Jake Paul was like, I think he's a little heavier, a pound. They both put on weight. Jake Paul put on a lot of muscle, but he's like a pound heavier. He's got 2 inches, 3 inches of reach. Mike Tyson. He's taller than Mike Tyson. Oh, yeah. And he's 31 years Mike Tyson's junior. Mauro Ranallo, who's fabulous, by the way. Love Mauro Ranallo. Kept reminding us, as he should, again, because he's a broadcaster, but it's not necessarily what I want to hear. Kept reminding us that Jake Paul was in the prime of his athletic life, and Mike Tyson certainly was not. And it was true, I mean, I loved to see it. I loved the fact that because by round 3, the concern was no longer whether or not Mike Tyson could win the fight. By round 3, that wasn't a realistic thing. If Mike Tyson did not behead Jake Paul within 30 seconds of round 2, I would even give him the whole first round. But if 30 seconds into round 2, Jake Paul's head was still on his shoulders, that was kind of it. And I think you could feel the audience. The audience knew that. Anybody watching, they kind of knew that. By the time round 3 came along and Mike's moving a little slower and you're realizing oh my God, this guy's going to have to now keep up for all these rounds. You're looking, they're only 2-minute rounds. Sure, they're not 3-minute rounds, but still 2 minutes of that level of athletic activity at that age when he's been training for it, but he hasn't been fighting. I'm going, oh my God, this could be a disaster. And I felt like for Mike, it was not a disaster. It was not a disaster in the sense that Jake Paul should have looked dominant, honestly, against Mike Tyson. Jake Paul should have looked like Mike Tyson had no business being in the ring with him. Now, I don't know if Jake Paul wanted to make sure that Mike was saved so that they could do something else down the road. I would make sure, because after the fight, Jake Paul wins. It's very clear that he wins. But he wasn't, Jake Paul was not impressive. I was not looking at that like, oh, we underestimated Jake Paul. I was like, okay, he did kind of the minimum of what you would expect he should do against Mike Tyson at this stage in Mike Tyson's life, if we're taking all the legend and fairy tales out of it. But then Ariel Helwani asked Mike, he goes, are you done? Which I'm sure he thought, and I thought, was an easy layup answer. Yeah, 58. Like, I was done before this. I can't believe I'm here now. But Mike said, I don't know. It depends. Which, honestly, clearly, it depends on the bag. Because now he can sit there. Before, he's wearing his Versace underpants. He's getting his toes stepped on. He has to train for this fight. He has to do all the work. Now, the fight's over. The Versace underpants are over. The training's over. And he's going, I just made $20 million. That's not such a bad deal. You know how many one-man shows I would have to do to get 20 million? I just made 20 million. If I could do that again, I would be very careful, even if his next fight isn't against Logan Paul. If Mike Tyson's next fight, because then he goes like, and then Ariel was like, okay, well, it depends. But if you had to tell me right now, what's in your gut right now as you stand in the ring after going through that experience? Mike Tyson said, no, I don't think I'm done. Which kind of goes to show you what Jake Paul should have been able, if he was going to beat Mike Tyson, he should have been able to beat him to the point that Mike Tyson was like, well, gee, I never want to do that again. That was a terrible idea. But instead, he was like, I might not have won, but I could probably do that again. I'll be 60 by the time I do it again. I could probably do that again. That's not, I would make a note. If the next time Mike Tyson fights, if it's not against Logan Paul, because that'll be obvious, check out who's promoting the fight. If it's MVP Promotions, I'm just saying. Was Mike Tyson not knocked out because Jake Paul couldn't? Or because Jake Paul wins, Mike Tyson goes the distance? We can run this back. And maybe we don't do 70,000 this time, but we can at least do 50,000. Maybe he doesn't make 20 million, but we could probably find 10 or 15. Wouldn't that be nice? Yeah, it'd be nice. The Paul brothers, this is how you know they're good natural promoters. I don't think that they realized that Mike Tyson was going to say, I don't know, maybe his brother, because that also could have been Mike Tyson going into business for himself, realizing like, hey, I mean, I didn't win, but like, I'm still breathing. That wasn't that bad. Maybe I can get another big fat check. There's pass now checks. And honestly, who in boxing deserves checks more than Mike Tyson? If there's anybody that deserves a retirement tour where he gets a big bunch of checks for, not exactly performing at his peak physical condition, I would want Mike Tyson to have those checks because I love Mike Tyson. But when he shouts out Logan Paul, I don't know, maybe I'll fight your brother. And Logan Paul, in the moment, Ariel goes, did you hear about this? Logan Paul had this look, and he goes, Mike, I would kill you, because he knows right there, whether this happens or not, might as well plant the seed. Because Jake, apparently, according to reports, got paid $40 million, and Mike got paid $20 million. So if you're still passing around however many figures that is, I've never even seen that many figures, 8-figure checks. I don't think Mike Tyson, Logan Paul, Jake Paul, anybody's turning down an 8-figure check for anything like what we saw tonight. And I said what we tried to see tonight because that was another story of the night. And I see Hubelson said Logan looked scared. I'm not sure that Logan looks scared. Surprised maybe, but I'm not sure that Logan looks scared. That comment, that chat message, by the way, doesn't look as pretty as some of these others. Every super chat gets acknowledged here on Sam Roberts Now. Poodlerific says, I'm worried about the pigeon. That was a great pro wrestling-like theatrical entrance, getting on the Eddie Guerrero lowrider, coming in with the hydraulics going a little bit, slow-moving lowrider, but a lowrider nonetheless, with a caged pigeon in the back of the car. Amazing. Just a little extra spice, keeping the anticipation going, keeping the theatrics going. I love it. I love that stuff. I love that they put 72,000 inside of Jerry's World. I love that they packed that place out and it looked packed. And I did kind of enjoy, by the end of round 8 that everybody was like, what? This is what we spent our night doing? Boo. I kind of liked it. I liked the whole thing. All right says the Trav Dog versus Terms of Service was a better match. Oofa, oofa. I'll tell you, Trav Dog versus Terms of Service, there was definitely a stronger fight on each side. I did not know by round 3 who was going to win that one. Six Crow, our Canadian financier, writes in, Jake Paul versus Joe Biden is next. I wonder if Joe Biden could convince us. I may be old. That's what what he'd have to do. Joe Biden would have to find those rusty razors that he fought Corn Pop with. If Joe Biden was able to use the rusty razors that he fought Corn Pop with, I'd probably grab that pay-per-view as well. Might make the trip to Texas for it. Florida Sal says, Sammy, no immortals? Tell that to Hogan, brother. Got a lot of HBK Flair, I love you, I'm sorry vibes. Yeah, but see, here's the difference between pro wrestling and boxing. You got those vibes, but none of the payoff. Boxing doesn't know how to do a payoff because everybody's supposed to, think that everything is on the up and up. In wrestling, we all know we're watching a show. Can you imagine if it's Shawn Michaels versus Ric Flair and Shawn goes, sorry, I love you, and then bows and waits for a time limit draw? Everybody would be like, why did we come to WrestleMania? This is ridiculous. I'm sorry, I love you, kick in the face, pin Ric Flair. If Jake Paul said, I'm sorry, I loved you, punched Mike Tyson in the face and knocked him out, sure, the heel would have won, but it's a finish. It's a payoff. You got to have a payoff. Otherwise, it's just this thing that keeps going until we've milked the teat dry, which I wouldn't be shocked if it happened. B-Herb says Tyson's greatest adversaries, F, Marry, Kill. Jake Paul, Lil Mac, Robin Givens. I don't know. Probably, maybe I'll, I don't know if I know Lil Mac. Maybe I'll marry Lil Mac, get to know him. F, Robin Givens, kill Jake Paul. I don't know. Nonsense McGee, Tyson walking around the locker room ass out was hilarious. Yeah, we'll get to that. We'll get to it. Keep super chatting in. Every super chat gets acknowledged on Sam Roberts. Now, the reason we said if you tried to see it or that you may have tried to see it or we don't know if you did see it was a lot of people had severe streaming issues with Netflix, which is a bad sign. I kind of thought that everything leading up to this for Netflix was the test. This was by far the biggest live Netflix show that they've ever done. They've never had something that this many people, I'm sure, we don't know the numbers yet, but we're watching in real time. This was a global cultural thing. This is the thing that really tested Netflix. What makes Netflix amazing is that they're global, which means they can hit the go live button and everybody across the globe who has Netflix can all watch this thing all at the same time. And it's an amazing thing, but they finally found this product that everybody across the globe wanted to put eyes on. It's just so fascinating for all the different reasons. And I guess too many people tuned into it. You remember Netflix first had, issues upon issues when they tried to do the Love is Blind reunion because everybody wanted to see the Lachey's. Everybody wanted to see Nick and Vanessa Lachey so much. So many people did that they couldn't get their stuff together. But then they kicked out. Then they did well with the Chris Rock comedy special. I think that went off without a hitch for the most part. They did the hot dog eating competition on Memorial Day, I think it was, in September, or Labor Day. Labor Day is when they did it. On Labor Day, they did the hot dog eating contest where Joey Chestnut destroyed Kobayashi for America. That was a payoff. And I think that went out without a hitch. The Tom Brady roast was then the next biggest thing. Tom Brady roast was huge, went off without a hitch, but the Tom Brady roast was not Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson. And I think they knew too, like, look, this is going to be big, and they have the NFL's Christmas game. So Christmas Day, the NFL game, that's going to be big. And then, of course, in January, Monday Night Raw starts every single Monday night. So Netflix has a lot of work to do. Lots of memes of the confused guys staring at wires in front of a server board. Many, many memes. I did not have too many issues. So I had a couple issues. The women's fight was tremendous. The Taylor Serrano fight, amazing. Katie Taylor headbutting Amanda Serrano like all over the place. Outrageous finish. I can't find one person, not one human being on this planet that thinks, no, actually, Katie Taylor did win that one. Everybody, from the people there to the people online to the people I'm talking to, everybody thought Amanda Serrano got robbed. And generally speaking, that means she probably did get robbed. She had a big gash on her head right above her eyebrow. I guess she got headbutted like 4 times. Maybe once was unintentional. Once was definitely on purpose because the referee took away a point. But the other 2, I don't know. But while that fight was on, I started having the glitches. And I went, uh-oh, it's all catching up to me. Then, in between a couple of the rounds, Netflix goes, hey, before we start the next round in this fight, let's go back to the locker room. We have a comment from Mike Tyson. And this interviewer is there, and he's interviewing Mike Tyson. And he goes like, and Mike's just like, it's going to be devastating. He doesn't say a lot, but he sounds scary when he's saying it. And he goes, thank you, Mike. The interviewer goes. And Mike says, thank you, gives the interviewer a hug and a kiss. And a shirtless man ready for violence giving another man a kiss is a scary thing. You know what's even more scarier? When that man is also bottomless. And we find out that Mike Tyson then walks away. For some reason, instead of the camera staying on the interviewer as the athlete walks out of frame, the camera turns, goes to the athlete. Mike Tyson is walking out of the shot, creating a wider field of view, right? The shot is like, whatever it is. It's maybe, bottom of the chest or whatever up for the interview. But as he's walking away, we're getting more and more of the body, and we get Mike Tyson's whole ass on camera, which honestly, Mike Tyson's whole ass being on camera was probably the number one thing that happened on the show. It was like, what did we just see? It was something out of a Naked Gun movie. It was like a parody of what could happen. It was insane. And then, and it's almost like they almost like tilted down to see Mike Tyson's full naked ass, and then tilted back up and covered it. Rosie Perez, who for whatever reason was on commentary and even said, I don't know if we needed that butt shot. And she was right. Rosie was right. Rosie Perez, actually, I was ready to be very annoyed that Rosie Perez was there and thought she was going to take away. She really didn't take away. I thought she did, especially in that main event fight. I thought she contributed a little bit of commentary. I thought Rosie Perez did very well. But I say all this to say that when the Mike Tyson showed his butt, I was like, oh my God, did I just see what I think I saw? And then I said, I got to see this again. And I got to make a video of it to send to some of my friends in case they're not watching. Sent it to Travis, sent it to some notable names that you might know from the world of pro wrestling. So I guess I wanted them to see it. And I was worried that the way Netflix, like in the Chris Rock stand-up special, Chris screwed up one of his jokes a little bit. And Netflix, I believe they sweetened it in the replay. And what I didn't want to do was to see Netflix edit this out, and I would just have the memory of it. So I rewound it and took a little video just on my couch, just for myself. I didn't have any more glitches after that. And I was like, my feed is doing just fine. And then I realized it's because I was about 90 seconds behind everyone else. I rewound to see the thing again and never came back. So I don't know if like rewinding it 90 seconds gave it enough time to buffer and allowed me to watch through. But that's how I watched it, and it did okay. Now, I'm not saying that that's a suitable answer. I'm not saying, well, going forward, anything that's live on Netflix, just rewind it a minute and a half and then start watching. That's an insane thing to do. So hopefully they figured it out. But that's how I figured it out. I saw some super chats coming in. Again, every super chat will get acknowledged here on Sam Roberts Now. Let's go to Lehman, not Sam Lehman. Jake Paul's entrance would have looked way better if Logan had the U.S. belt. That's true. That's true. Logan Paul did not have the United States Championship. Six Crow says, did you go back and watch JJ shut off his mic? No. So Jerry was out there, Jerry Jones, owner of the Cowboys. Of course, the Jerry's World was the stadium that they were in. They were in the Cowboy Stadium. That's kind of his spot. He got real mad that people told him to put up curtains recently. But as he's talking, I mean, I got to be honest, technically speaking, there were a lot of flaws in the television production. the Evander Holyfield segment was insane. I guess his ears didn't work. I mean, like his in-ears didn't work, and he wasn't hearing anything. And then Lennox Lewis, who was sitting next to him, started asking Evander Holyfield questions for the panel, but it was a different question than the panel had actually asked. Like the host would ask a question, and then Lennox Lewis would translate that to Evander Holyfield. Evander Holyfield would kind of talk off mic to Lennox Lewis, and the host would say, "That's not even the question I just asked you to ask him. What the hell is going on?" Every time they went back to that desk, something else went wrong. At one point, you could hear Mauro Ranallo shouting at the truck. I don't know if I mentioned this, but on accident, they showed Mike Tyson's whole ass. So one of the other things that happened is they're talking to Jerry Jones about, they're in the Cowboy Stadium and how great this is and everything. And he's talking into a dead mic. It's not on. He's talking, and I go, of all the people to give a dead mic to, you give it to the guy who it's his building you're in. He's the one who has to talk. What type of Mickey Mouse company is running this thing? And then Six Crow says, if you watch the clip again, you can see at some point he accidentally turns it off because I guess it was Michael Irvin who was sitting next to him, just like turns the mic back on to get it working. Now, I don't know if that means, and maybe Six Crow, you could clear this up for me. I don't know if that means that Jerry actually turned it off or if they handed it to him and it was off. I don't know if he actually saw it, but if he just like fumbled on it and turned it off right before he talked into it, that's hilarious. Bid Moon, why did Heyman change his number? Sam is the GOAT. I am the GOAT. I'm glad you bring that up. I probably would have done an emergency podcast tonight had this not been happening. My mind is in so many places right now. I have to sit down at this desk without you here, go through some video from SmackDown tonight, and really wrap my head around the dramatic ending that we saw with Roman Reigns trying to call the wise man and the number was disconnected. Unbelievable. But I will. Mark writes in, this equals a nice dessert to the real fight, Taylor versus Serrano. Yeah, I mean, I will say that it was not a bad night for boxing in the sense that, like, you find that there are actual great fights going on. A lot of people tuned in tonight that don't watch boxing regularly. And boxing is making a comeback. Like Tank Davis and Ryan Garcia, aside from his craziness on social media, and this fight that we saw, and I mean, Canelo, everybody knows. But there are all these really compelling fighters coming back to the sport of boxing. And there are all these fighters that are capable of putting on a really great fight. And we saw a really great fight before the main event. It was Katie Taylor versus Amanda Serrano. And that's what I would tell you. I mean, I would say if you didn't watch the fight tonight, go back, watch the Jake Paul entrance, watch the Tyson entrance because it's badass. Just him walking by himself like the old days. I mean, if you want to see Tori Kelly sing the national anthem, that's fine. And then, watch the first round and then fast forward to the end. And you've got it. If you want to watch boxing, go back and watch that Taylor Serrano fight because that fight was unbelievable. They fought in Madison Square Garden a little while back. This was their second fight, and both of those fights are tremendous fights. Joseph writes in, Jay versus Jimmy or Paul versus Tyson. I mean, both fights had a lot of buildup. Both fights, I think, left people feeling like they wanted more. But I think you got to go Jay versus Jimmy. At least you got some super kicks landed. I think the percentage of punches landed was very low for this fight, especially poor Mike. It was like 18% for Mike. I think it was 28% for Jake Paul. But yeah, I probably got to go Jimmy J. Front row just saying what's up front row. Six Crow back. Those were Jacob Fatu level headbutts. Yeah, I think you're talking about Katie Taylor. They absolutely were. Toby, I've been so excited for Raw on Netflix. Now I'm just scared. Look, I can't imagine that every single Monday there will be as many people watching Raw as there were watching. Well, I mean, who knows? Who am I to say? We've got 2 months. It's 6 weeks. Let's see what happens. You know what I mean? Let's be positive here. And he fumbled the mic 100%, says Six Crow. I love to hear that. I absolutely love to hear that. Andrew says Mike still wants to fight again after that showing. Yeah, I mean, I think there's a big amount of money, and clearly he was in the ring with somebody who was willing to not knock him out. That's the way it looked like to me. Unless Jake Paul was so worried about Tyson getting one lucky shot in, or Jake's arms were shot. I was talking to one person who knows boxing while the fight was on that said that he thought it looked like by round 4, Jake started losing his arms. I don't know. I don't know boxing well enough to say that. But I find it difficult to believe that if Jake Paul did not want to knock out Mike Tyson, that if Jake Paul had wanted to knock out Mike Tyson, he couldn't have knocked him out. Let's see. I thought, honestly, the weigh-in, I was gonna, on the thumbnail for this, it's a picture from the weigh-in right now. And I'm pretty sure I'm just going to leave that because I don't think there's an image from this fight that's more compelling than Mike Tyson slapping Jake Paul at the weigh-in. And I've got to tell you, in terms of the eyeballs on this thing, what happened at that weigh-in did so much for this fight. Anybody that was even on the fence about watching this thing turned it on. It helps, too, that it wasn't a pay-per-view. If you've got Netflix, you've got the thing. You know what? Ray says it best. Mike's ass was the hero tonight. Mike's ass was the hero tonight. If I see something I like, I'll throw it up there. If you need something up there, super chat in. Every super chat gets acknowledged. But, yeah, I think that the weigh-in for me, it helped that it was on Netflix because anybody that has Netflix can just turn it on. There's not that extra thing where it's like, yeah, and you got to pay $70. Because if I had paid $70, it'd be tough. It'd be tough. But the fact that it's just on, I don't know who's not watching this. Especially since the thing didn't start until midnight, so it's not like anything else is on. I guess you could have gone to bed. Some people probably have that opinion. But the weigh-in, right? The weigh-in, Jake Paul comes in and he's performative. He's just doing Jake Paul stuff. But Mike Tyson came in. First of all, everybody else showed up at that weigh-in and they had like a workout suit on, like pants. And they took the pants and workout suit off and they got on the scale and then they put the pants back on for the whatever, the little photo op, the little head-to-head, And Mike Tyson and Jake Paul did the same thing. He had a whole little outfit. He put the little outfit back on. Mike Tyson shows up. He's got a 1,000-yard stare. Who knows what the hell this guy's thinking about? And he's just wearing a big leather jacket with his name on it and Versace bikini briefs. And that's it. And he gets on the scale. Somebody takes off his jacket. He's in these Versace bikini briefs, grabs his gens, he shakes it just so everybody can see. He's feeling very, very confident. Jake Paul thinks he's being funny, crawls to him or does whatever. Accidentally, it would appear, steps on Mike Tyson's toe. Mike Tyson hates that, and he slaps Jake Paul across the face. And you could see in the slow-mo, it was a real slap. And Jake Paul, of course, immediately realized what had happened. First, he tried to no-sell it. Then he started to sell it because he realized this could get more eyeballs on the fight. And it was fantastic. And it made us all believe that Mike Tyson could be that maniac again. I think what we forgot was, even if he is, there's a big difference in a boxing ring between a 58-year-old maniac and a 28-year-old maniac. It's never going to be the same. And it just is what it is. I think everybody involved is probably pretty happy about how everything. I don't think Netflix is happy about the fact that they were buffering the whole entire time. That there's no positive spin that you could put on it. But the eyeballs, the fact that people will watch another Tyson fight, this many won't. A lot of casuals may not. But you could build up another Mike Tyson spectacle at some point. It won't be as big as this one. You won't sell out a stadium again. I can't imagine who the opponent would be, because at this point, there's nobody that people would like to see win against Mike Tyson, right? Mike Tyson is there to be the guy to potentially beat people. 72,000 people paid a ton of money to sit in a stadium in Dallas, Texas to see Jake Paul get knocked out. That's what they wanted to see. That's Jake Paul's strength. When he fought Nate Diaz, they wanted to see Jake Paul lose. When he fought Ben Askren, they wanted to see Jake Paul lose. When he fought, who was it? Tyron Woodley. They wanted to see, that's who, or was it? I don't remember who the other MMA fighter was, but they wanted to see Jake Paul lose. And he didn't. So you need to keep finding opponents that you can convince can beat Jake Paul. With Mike Tyson, it's like, do we believe he can beat Logan Paul? Is there somebody else? Maybe Nikocado Avocado. I would watch Mike Tyson beat up Nikocado Avocado, I guess, but he's not a professional boxer. So it would probably be a little bit different. What did he say? What does this guy say? So the broadcaster who's commented on Tyson's fight for 20 years and Tyson himself, when prompted, knows less about Tyson's glove biting habit than you. I don't know what you're talking about, dude. Nobody brought up Tyson's glove biting habit on this show yet. Let's see. Florida Sal, Jake Paul spraying his own version of arrogance. I did see that. I guess Jake Paul has realized, like, I do kind of admire that they lean in to all the stereotypes of douchiness and they have their own version of like Axe body spray. I'm assuming that's what that was. That Jake Paul has his own fragrance spray, because like Logan was spraying it as they came to the ring. And then like, while Mike Tyson is trying to shake Jake Paul's hand, Jake Paul is spraying his arrogance in the air, which I'm like, okay. Mark writes in, was this scripted? Was it scripted? No. Do I think I don't think that Tyson is capable of that. I think what Tyson is capable of is what we saw. I think there is a realism that people realize that maybe some of us got lost in. You know, I don't think that at any point Jake Paul or his camp were worried that Mike Tyson was going to win. I think they knew what this was going to be. I don't think they knocked him out with intention. That's what I think. Victor says, hot dog versus intern Dom. Hot dog doesn't have a chance, unfortunately. That's not going to happen. How about this one? Conor McGregor versus Iron Mike. Now we're talking. I mean, that would be huge. Conor McGregor versus Mike Tyson would be huge. But there's no way Mike Tyson's beating Conor McGregor. It's not going to happen. And I don't want to see Conor McGregor and Mike Tyson. That's the other thing. Like, if you're not going to knock, I don't want to see Conor McGregor and Mike Tyson go 8 rounds with Conor McGregor pretending he can't knock him out. Like, I don't want to see that. They're talking now we're talking about the glove biting. Glove biting is a sign he's not going to fight. I don't know how to get that off the screen now. I don't know where. Hide. There it is. I see what you're saying. Well, they said that, glove biting is a sign that he's not going to fight, meaning he's biting his gloves. So he's not. Okay, but I'm literally looking. I don't have that camera on. If you look, he took a photo with me. If you go to my Instagram, I'll look at it because I posted the photo this morning. This could just be something that Tyson does. I posted the photo this morning, and when he's pretending to bite my ear, maybe he's not really biting his hand. It kind of looks like he's biting his hand. I thought that he bites his glove as kind of a nervous habit because he has a lot of nervous tics to him, does Mike Tyson. And I thought he did it as maybe like a nervous tic and also to remind himself to protect his chin. Right? He had his gloves up. When you bite your glove, you also cover your chin. So if he knows he's not going to, he probably knows, when you don't have strength to throw punches. So maybe if he's like, look, like what did Roy Jones say on commentary? He said that like when you come alive in a round, you might have like 10 seconds worth of coming alive. It's a 2-minute round. You got to survive the rest of the round. It might just be one of those nervous tics that he does when he puts his gloves up to protect his chin, because right now he doesn't have the energy or the strength to throw shots at Jake Paul. Maybe. Let's see. Six Crow says no prime. Probably Jake Paul didn't want it. Herb says, I told KB you were at 700 and he rage quit his stream. If that is true, I would love to see the clip. I think that's a funny thing. Yeah, look, I walked in optimistically. On the post interview, he said he has a bite. Here, Blob. I'm going to give you this one, Blob. You're a good man. By the way, check my Twitter, everybody, because Blob More Chairs put out a remix of Roman Reigns at the end of SmackDown with the Michael Bay credits to it. The Linkin Park one. It's great. It's great. Check that video out. Blob More Chairs says, on the post interview, he said he has a biting fixation. But yes, it is a tick of frustration. He has done a lot in the past. Okay, so everybody's saying I didn't know. I clearly was 100% right. And the idea that Mike Tyson has a biting fixation is extremely well documented. I would say ask Evander Holyfield about it, but Evander Holyfield would in no way, shape, or form answer the question because he looked like Weekend at Bernie's. I walked into this. Sam should be a falsetto singing star. Thank you very much, because you heard my Linkin Park. I really appreciate that, Justin. I walked in, right, as of yesterday, after the weigh-in. I said, regardless of how things go with Jake Paul, I think it is amazing that even for this brief moment in time, we get to have a little taste of Mike Tyson, the murderer, once more. We get to, even if this whole process just acts as a device to remember how great Mike Tyson was, then it was still worth it. To me, I love that Mike Tyson had this moment. I love the idea that Mike Tyson is going to have a whole bunch of other, potentially is going to have more fights he shouldn't be in where he gets to make a whole bunch of money. I like that people talk about how scary he is still to this day. I like that so many people believed that he was still that guy, including myself. We got a couple more super chats in. Azrian says, too bad you don't have a funny fixation. Oh, look at you. Jesse says, hello, lonely world. Read this text now. Say my name. There you go, bud. Hope you're doing very, very well. Yeah. People are just chiming in now. Oh, damn. Tyson losed. Yes, he did. Yes, he did losed. Unfortunately, he did. And it was what it was. But we got to see the murderer. Even whether it was true or not, whether he was actually the murderer or he wasn't, we got to see the murderer one more time. And I love that we did. I would also say that anybody that, I know that there were a lot of people that are watching now that enjoy my work in the world of professional wrestling, but I'm sure there are plenty of people that are not wrestling fans that are watching, and they go, well, how would you watch that stuff? Why do you like this wrestling stuff? You know, if you were excited about tonight, I want you to think about the feeling that you have right now. Maybe it's disappointment. Maybe it's emptiness, whatever it is. Just think about that. And I tweeted this. Understand that if this had been pro wrestling and people realized everybody is here to see one thing, that's all everybody is here to see, right? Okay, I'll give you an example. In that same building, the same exact building, AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Texas, Jerry's World, Stone Cold Steve Austin, at an age probably not too far off from Mike Tyson's, showed up to have a match with a wrestler named Kevin Owens, who at the time was at the top of his game as a pro wrestler, still is, you know, much younger guy. And you know what happened? He whipped his ass all over Arlington. Stunner after stunner. That weekend, we must have gotten 6 different stunners on people. Everybody was eating stunners. And at the end of the day, Stone Cold won. And his music played. And you know how we felt after WrestleMania? Joyful and happy. Like, wasn't that amazing? We just got hit with this direct blast of nostalgia, and it couldn't have been better. If this had been true pro wrestling, people go, oh, the fight's fixed, fight's fixed. If this had been true pro wrestling, Mike Tyson would have showed up. For a second, it would have looked like he was going to lose to Jake Paul. Jake Paul would have attempted to knock him out. At the very last minute, Mike Tyson would have ducked away from that knockout punch. Mike Tyson would have hit his finisher on Jake Paul 4, maybe 5 times. Then he would have beaten Jake Paul. And he would have thrown him out of the ring. And he would have put his arms up in the air. And everybody would have gone nuts. And we all would have gone home happy. And I would be coming on here. And I would be talking to all of you about what an awesome night we all had. That's what makes pro wrestling better than anything else. Because in pro wrestling, if Mike Tyson can move at all and looks like he looks now, at 58 years old, Mike Tyson can be the hero that we all want him to be. Because it's pro wrestling. We can get the happy ending. It's amazing. Let's go back to these super chats. Oh, Jesse's back. Emotionally riding with Tyson, logically with Jake, and that's why I didn't put money on it. That's why I knew in my heart I wanted Tyson to win. In my head, I knew that Jake Paul. I knew that there was really no chance that Jake Paul was going to lose. In my head, not in my heart, in my head, and it was what it was, you know. So, yeah, and, you know, people bring up where Mike came from, where Jake came from, and all of that is true. And Jake Paul, I don't think, again, came across looking terribly impressive. But at the end of the day, age is what age is, and it is what it is. What else can you do? Zatoichi's Kane Sword said, boy, his arms will be sore AF tomorrow. Who's that? Jake Paul or Mike Tyson? Both. Mike Tyson's fingers will be sore because he's been biting him all night. But yeah, no, I think both. And by the way, like, I don't know, Jake Paul didn't look that much less exhausted than Mike Tyson. Maybe it's because Jake Paul was throwing way more hits, or at least attempting to throw more hits. I mean, he did land more hits as well, but maybe it's because he did. See, this is kind of silly. Christopher says, not age-related. Iron Mike threw the fight. Like, come on, dude. Like, you got to realize your superheroes are not always superheroes. The guy's 58 years old. What he did tonight was actually impressive for a 58-year-old. Mark chimes in, and all super chats get acknowledged, by the way. All super chats get acknowledged. So if you got something you think should be on the screen, super chat it in. Mark writes in, Netflix's future, Shaq versus Gronk. They foreshadowed it. I saw, you know, Shaq saying that he thought that he was going to get the world of football and basketball together. He mentioned it on the show when they were trying to just fill time for like 30 minutes before the main event. Why? When they were just sitting there talking about nothing after 11 o'clock at night for 30 minutes waiting for this fight to start, because for whatever reason they got this hard time that's when the entrances are going to happen. Shaq and Gronk are not going to fight. I mean, I do believe that Shaq was looking at this whole thing that's been set up. The fact that they were able to sell out this 70,000 seat, the fact that, you know, they got this big bag from Netflix. I'm sure he was watching that and going like, we got to do something here. And I'd watch something with Gronk and Shaq. I don't want to watch them fight, I don't think, but I suppose I'd watch something. All right. I think we did it. Okay. All right. Let's see. Herbs writes in, quit saying less when the word is fewer on Jim and Sam. You do it almost daily. Didn't you grow up in the UK, Britain, England, or something? You have to, I think you've said this before. You need to cite an example. I say less instead of fewer. I wish that you would chime in less. I wish that you would chime in fewer times. Is that what, am I on the right track? Is that the proper use of those terms? Let's go to, back to Jesse, who writes, how about the extreme mass gambling advertise? Well, I mean, I didn't see any more gambling advertisements than any other sport. I mean, that's what people do. They have sponsors. There was also a big, giant Pepsi logo on the entranceway and all kinds of logos all over the ring and everything. They get sponsors. It's a thing. See, this is it. Manuel writes, Tyson is 60, almost. He's 58, and looked like it. They were using 14-ounce gloves. No one was getting knocked out. It was going the distance. Yeah, I mean, that's ultimately what it is. The fact that he was like ducking and moving around and stuff at 58 years old, as far into the fight as he was, means that he is in way better shape than just about any other 58-year-old that I can think of. But yeah, that's where we're landing. Let's leave it at that, huh? Unless you got any more super chats that you want to chime in with, I'll acknowledge those. But in the meantime, let's leave it at that. I announced earlier today that I am taking the live Notsam Wrestling Podcast. I've been doing live, my wrestling podcast, Notsam Wrestling. That's my other YouTube channel. You can go over to Notsam Wrestling, hear these amazing wrestling takes all the time. And I'm doing the live Notsam Wrestling Podcast in Indianapolis, Indiana, at the Helium Comedy Club on Thursday, July 30th. That's the Thursday before the Royal Rumble. It's a 5:30 p.m. show, so make sure you're in Indianapolis for it. There's a ticket link at the top of notsam.com, and there's links on my Twitter and stuff like that. So make sure you're out there for the big live Notsam Wrestling Podcast. Appreciate you guys hanging out with me this evening. It's late. Let's get some shut-eye. Leave comments, subscribe, hit like. We'll talk again soon. Have a great one, everybody. I got you got 5 styluses, so you might as well use them. I'm going to cheers with you later.